morning, everybody, and welcome back to WorksheetCloud and to your grade 6 English lesson. My name is Mrs. Fauger. Remember, if you do have any questions during the lesson, you can email me at grade6@worksheetcloud.com. So let's jump into our lesson overview for today. We are going to have a daily starter, and then we are looking at email writing. We are going to identify the 5 main parts of a letter or an email. We are going to compare and contrast the format of letter writing to that of writing emails. We are also going to look at the do's and don'ts when writing an email, and then just to make sure that you proofread a draft of an email. So in other words, you just make sure that you edit it properly, you check your spelling, and all those important things. So I thought we would start off with a little funny video. I'm just going to move myself to the left here. This is taken from funny Instavids, and it does fall under the Creative Commons license, so we are allowed to use it for free. And I'm just going to show you a portion of it, and it's just all about speaking and pronunciation, and it's just funny. So I hope you enjoy it.
Say I. Say I love ice cream.
Cantono.
I want ice cream.
Cantono.
Cantono. Say Delta. Eat ice cream.
Cantono.
What the heck are you saying? Say ice cream. Say I want ice cream.
Cantono.
Ice cream. Ice cream.
Cantono.
I just thought that was very cute, and what a way to start with just a bit of a laugh, something to make you smile. So again, we are going to look at an email, and the definition of the word email actually comes from electronic mail sent through the internet. So the E in mail is electronic mail, if you didn't know that. So let's take a look. What's the difference between an email and a letter? And so when we compare and contrast something, I hope that you know what those two mean. To compare is to find how they are the same, but to contrast is to find how they are different. And so when you reading in a comprehension or some other activity and your teacher says compare the following, that means find what is similar. If she says contrast, she wants you to find the differences. And that can happen in your social science like history, English. It happens all over the place, even in maths. So what I want you to do is just pause the video, see if you can compare or contrast the difference between an email and a letter. If you think about it, you can use a Venn diagram. This is the Venn diagram where they overlap. So this is just for emails, this is just for letters, and this is the same. Or you can do it in columns. So what only emails use, what only letters use, what are the things that they have that are the same. Or you can do what we call a double bubble map. And you can do the 3 things that are email only, the 3 things that are letters only, and then the 3 things that both letters and emails have. So pause the video, and when you come back, we'll go through it. Right. Okay, so let's take a look. So I have decided to use a double bubble map. Okay, double bubble because there's 2 bubbles with a whole lot of other bubbles on either side. So emails, they are digital, whereas letters are normally on paper. Emails are received through the internet, but letters are normally sent through the post. Oh, my apologies. Emails can be deleted, so you can just push of a button and delete it, while letters, you can't delete them, you can throw them away. It's slightly different. Emails received very quickly, letters are a little bit slower. And then in what ways are they the same if we compare them? You can communicate with emails or letters. They're both used to communicate. They're both written by people, and they can be formal or informal. So just like a letter can be a formal letter to the company of sort of the Coca-Cola company, you can also write a letter to a friend. In the same way, you can write an email to your teacher, but you can also write an email to your friend. Okay, so let's take a look at ways in which they are slightly different. So take a look. The layout of a letter is as follows. You normally have in the top right-hand corner, and I'm sure you've written a letter numerous times in grade 4, 5, and 6. You normally put the address at the very top. Okay, that's your header. You then have your greeting, dear Serena, whoever you're writing to. You then have the message or the body of what you're wanting to say, and then you have your closing, which is from, and your name underneath. Obviously, it would be much longer than this. This is a very short example. And then if you were doing an email, you normally have at the top there it says from, and you've normally got an email address, not a physical address. The to is also the email. It's sent, it normally tells you when it's been sent, and it normally tells you the subject, which should actually be capital letter. And this is your header, like that would be in a letter. Hey Tyrone, that's a greeting, and as you can see, this is a little bit informal, these two examples. There's your message, the body of your message. Same thing is in the closing, you have from and Tanya underneath each other, and those are the ways in which they are similar. So let's take a look at the do's when writing an email. So one, you need to have the correct email address for the person you're writing to, else they won't get it, and then you wonder why they haven't replied. And number two, you need to write a meaningful and apt subject line and use all capital letters. And what I mean by all capital letters is the beginning of each word. So worksheet, cloud, poetry, lesson, question. So maybe if you're writing me an email, that's what you would do. Capital W, capital C, capital P, capital L, capital Q. If you're writing, as in the previous slide, play date, it's one word, you just write a capital P. If you're writing need help, maybe that's an email that you're sending your teacher, capital N, need, and capital H, help. And what this does is it makes sure that when you are sending an email to somebody, when they see that subject line, they know what it is about before they even open it. So urgent, need help, will grab their attention quite quickly. If, for example, you are writing to enter a competition entry, capital C, capital E, it just helps whoever's receiving your mail to understand what it's about. And then obviously in this section here, recipients, that's where you write your email address. Right, the other do's when writing emails are to do with your greeting. So to start an email, you need to formally greet the recipient. So I'm really doing one that's for a formal thing, as if you're writing to a teacher or you're writing to a company, you really do need to know the right way to do it. So to start off the email, you need to formally greet the recipient. If you know the person well, then it's going to be Dear Mary, like if it was a friend. If you don't know the person, or the person is older than you, an elder, or a teacher, you have to write Dear Mrs. or Dear Mr. and their name. And here's an example. So if this was a new message, you'd put in the email address, grade6@worksheetcloud.com. Your subject would be question, capital Q, on, capital O, subject, capital S, verb, capital V, a, capital agreement. Maybe you've got a question on subject, verb, agreement. And then you start Dear Mrs. Verger. Right, the next part, do's when writing an email, is your opening line. So this is almost like when you are starting your email, you want to make a good impression. It's always important to start as follows. So if you're replying to somebody, maybe your teacher sent you an email, then you would reply, thank you for your mail. So Dear Mrs. Verger, thank you for your mail. Or if you are sending the mail to the person first. So sometimes teachers, we write emails to parents or to children, start off, Dear Chad, skip a line, I trust this email finds you well, or I hope this email finds you well. So take a look on the on the right. New message, right email address, the subject, Dear Mrs. Verger, skip a line, and then you start, I hope this email finds you well. Or something along those lines, I trust this email finds you well, or I hope you are doing well. The next part is the body of the email, and this is really what you are wanting to write about to your teacher or to whoever you are writing. Every new thought is a new paragraph. So you must remember that your usual writing skills, you've got to remember them in whatever writing you do, in a story, in a letter, in an email, in an essay, You need to use your same skills that you've been taught from very, very little. So every new thought is a new paragraph. So if I'm talking about chocolate in this paragraph and then I change it to talking about history work, 2 separate paragraphs. I don't talk about chocolate and history in the same paragraph. Always be polite and respectful. Distinguish between formal and informal situations and write accordingly. So you're not going to go, hey, what's up, if you're writing to your teacher, because that's not formal, but you would do that with a friend. So really know who you're writing to and what you can say. So avoid your slang words when you're writing to your teachers, but hey, what's up, what's happening, you can definitely do that with a friend. Keep the message precise and readable, so get to the point and make sure it makes sense when you read it. Proofread your message to edit errors. So important. And I know some of you battle with your spelling. There's a clever little thing on an email. And if you go to the bottom, once you've typed up your email, if you go to the bottom, there are those 3 little dots. And if you click on them, this is what comes up. Templates, label, read, request, read, receipt, plain text mode, print, check spelling. So read, I'm just going to tell you about this one. Request a read receipt or a read receipt. That just means that if you click on this, you're wanting the person to have to let you know that they've read it. Like on an SMS, you can see if there's 2 ticks they've opened it. That's the same kind of thing. But check spelling is the one that you would use, and it's very, very helpful. So you'll select your email, all the words, click on those 3 dots, check spelling, and it'll underline the words that you need to check. And it'll give you the correct spelling. Use simple sentences, so don't try and be too clever, because that's when you can make mistakes. And then use bullet points, numbers, and paragraphs to make the message clear and easy to understand. Right, so let's take a look. Other do's when writing emails. Okay, how do we close an email? So you can do a number of ways. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope to hear from you too. Have a wonderful week, end, or day, or evening further. You can also, obviously, if you're writing to a friend, just say chat soon and underneath Mary. When you're writing to somebody that's a formal email, which is what we're talking about today, really think about how you're ending off your emails. And then ending the email right at the end, you've got the following. You can say warm regards, warmest regards, kind regards, many thanks, from, or love. Obviously, when you're using love, you obviously know the person quite well. And from is also, but when you're sending a formal email, make sure you're using things like this: warmest regards, kind regards, many thanks. And you can look at this example. So again, email, subject, capital letters for the beginning of each word. Dear Mrs. Vauger, remember we would have had, I hope this email finds you well, skip a line. The body of your email, skip a line. I look forward to hearing from you, skip a line, warmest regards, and your name. So let's now take a look at some of the don'ts when writing emails. So I'm really talking about the body of the email. Don't use slang, yo, hey, how's it going, how's it hanging, those kind of things. There's no need to shout. So when you use capital letters, it's like you shouting. That's how people read it. So avoid capital letters, as in complete capital letters for everything like that, shout. Emoticons are not always appropriate. We can get them nowadays, your little Bitmoji. So yes, absolutely fine when you're writing to your friend or gran or family member. Just be very careful when you're doing it as a formal email. Jokes can be misunderstood, so rather avoid them. Remember that you can't hear the way in which somebody's saying something. So just be also very careful about what you say. Do not write hello or hi as your subject. That doesn't really do anybody any good. They're not sure why you're writing. Do not write about irrelevant issues. So it's not just about writing for the sake of writing. Do not give personal information that you want to keep private, for the email could end up in the wrong hands. So just like good social media information that I'm sure you've been taught is SMSs, pictures, videos, the TikToks that you do. Just remember that you leave a digital footprint. So in other words, you can delete it, but it's still up there in the clouds. So if you are needing to perhaps apply for a job in about 10, 15 years time, they can often go onto your Facebook, they can go back in your records and see what you've posted or put on. and you really don't want those things to come and hurt you later on. So just be selective about what you're showing everybody out there. Think about it. If you would have it on a billboard outside your home for people to walk and look past at your neighbors, your friends, strangers, are you happy with that? Because that's what you're doing when you do it on a phone or you do it on an email. Whatever you're writing or putting out there stays there, leaves little footprints like on the beach. Do not use different fonts as the recipient's computer may not be compatible. I know it's nice to change things up a bit and use like a flowy font or a block font. Just write in plain Arial so that when it gets to the other person, it doesn't change your font and it's misunderstood. It can sometimes change it completely into funny pictures. Right, so let's take a look now at one in total. So I've done one for grade 7s. So if I was a student and I wanted to write to the teacher in grade 7, I go grade 7 at WorksheetCloud.com and I put here grade 7 poetry lesson question. So remember, that is where you start. Make sure you've got the correct email address. Your greeting. Remember, you start at the top, Dear Mrs. Fauger, or whoever you're writing to, skip a line. Greet that person in a nice opening sentence. I trust this email finds you well. Then skip a line. Now you're going to give whoever you're writing to the reason why you are writing. I have been watching the lesson on WorksheetCloud and specifically the lesson on poetry, and I have a few questions. One, and this is where we use bullet points or numbers, are you going to do other lessons on interpreting poems? Should have been a question mark. And can you please do a lesson on other types of devices such as symbolism, oxymorons, idioms, illusions, and irony? Right, that's what I want to ask the teacher about. Skip a line. I hope to hear from you soon because you're letting them know you want to reply. Skip a line, warmest regards, and your name, Jack. So just take a look that you've got everything sorted. You've got the greeting. You've got the opening sentence. You've got the body of the email. You've got a good closing sentence and your ending is correct. There's a certain layout. And believe me, your teacher will be impressed because I'm sure you have to email your teachers every now and then. So make sure that you are using the correct things. And then remember the 3 dots at the bottom. That is to make sure that when you've typed all of this up, you can then check your spelling. Right, so now it's your turn, grade 6s, to write an email. And I've given you some ideas. I will also give you an activity where I'll put out the layout for an email plus some of these ideas. Why don't you try it? I wouldn't mind also if you just email me at grade6@worksheetcloud.com to let me know what you've enjoyed. What other lessons would you like me to do? So I'd love to get a response from you. Remember those skills and techniques I've taught you. So you can write an email to another learner who's the same age as you but that lives in another country. Maybe you've got a friend far away, or maybe you've got a cousin who's in Cape Town. I'm in Joburg, or maybe you're in Cape Town and they're in Joburg. A cousin, another person, another friend. What interesting things can you tell them about where you live, what your hobbies and talents are, what questions do you have to ask them? Or you could write an email to a friend about going to high school next year. So I know some schools, especially in Cape Town, grade 7 is considered high school. And so you could ask them about that. What are you excited about or looking forward to? What makes you nervous? What worries you? You could even write to your teacher or your family member about your remote learning experience. I know some children have been learning remotely. Some of you are at school. But consider the following. And you could write about how you're enjoying being at school or remote learning, being at home. Your shock or surprise about not being at school. What are the positives about being home? What are the negatives? What questions do you have to ask them? And remember, you always start with a rough draft. So write it on a piece of paper or type it onto your notes on your iPad and in Word on your computer. Check it carefully, check your spelling, check your layout, go back to this video or go look at the worksheet which will have the layout of an email, a formal email, and then copy and paste that onto an actual email. Check your spelling, glance through it one more time, read it out loud. Often we read something and we go, oh my goodness, I've left out a preposition or I've left out a question mark. And then obviously check you have the correct email address. It usually won't go through. It'll send you a message back to say it couldn't go through and then you know you've typed it incorrectly. Right, and so we've come to the end of our lesson, grade 6. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to have a greeting. Okay, dear Mrs. Vauger, your opening line. I trust this email finds you well. I hope you are doing well. Body, what are you writing to the person for? So get to the matter of fact that you are actually writing about. Your closing line, I do hope to hear from you soon. I do hope you are keeping safe. And then your ending, skip a line, warmest regards, underneath that your name. So remember to email me at grade6@worksheetcloud.com if you've got any questions, and then there will be an activity after this video. So nothing else from me but to thank you for watching grade 6s, and you know where I will be. Same time, same place. Bye guys.